Good morning, Swamiji. Mohan here.
Yes, yes.
Nam Maharaj.
Yes, namaste.
What is the background you have here now?
Yes, I will, in a moment, I will explain. Yesterday, I went for a walk along the American River, our own American River. So there I took this picture.
Oh, very nice.
Our William B. Pond Park, which is very near to us. Okay, so yes, we're good to go. So let us start with chanting. And for that, I shall share the screen with you so that we can chant together. So let us chant slowly. Okay. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Supreme Spirit protect us. May the Supreme Spirit nourish us. May we work together with great energy. May our study be vigorous and fruitful. May love and harmony dwell amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Asoto Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mriturma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. Good morning and welcome to all of you. Today's talk is what makes us resilient. And at the very beginning, I should apologize because when last Monday I sent the newsletter, I made a mistake. Instead of writing resilient, I wrote what makes us resilient. So one I was missing. Then someone pointed me and I corrected and sent it again. So what makes us resilient? 2 weeks ago, Scientific American published one article, and it was all about resilience, especially resilience during trying times like what we are experiencing now. So psychologists say that that this lockdown is arguably the largest psychological experiment that has ever been conducted. Such a huge number of people all over the world are suffering due to economic loss, loss of loved ones, fear of the disease, uncertainty about the future. All these factors are perfect condition for stress, and that too for a quite a long period of time. So according to them, this is the largest psychological experiment that has ever been conducted. The science of resilience, which investigates what makes people resilient, that is, how people cope with adversity, with challenges, and how do they face them, and what we can learn so that we can also become resilient. So resilience, all of us know, is a capacity to thrive at the face of adversity, capacity to bounce back after going through a rough patch. And but they say there are more to resilience than only bouncing back or facing. They say it is capacity to experience stress, recover from stress, sustain sustain that recovery, and even to grow from the challenges. One Harvard psychologist compares this with um, the with the example of or metaphor of a fresh twig. He says that resilient people are like fresh twigs which has got a green inner core. When twisted, a fresh twig bends but does not break down, and it continues to grow. Resilient people are also like that. They have a green inner core, as it were, and put under stress, even in extreme stress, they don't break down. Rather, they may bend, they may go through some challenges, face the stress or some discomfort for a shorter period of time, and then they continue to grow. This is resilience in depth. So what they found, the many studies that have been conducted on science of resilience, how people cope with adversity, they have found that astonishingly, majority of people, around 65% of people are resilient. That is, when they are under stress, they can maintain almost a normal life, physical and mental health. They don't show symptoms of psychological problems. They are called, they call it technically that these people follow a resilient trajectory. Then there are 25% of people, rest 25%, who suffer during the period of the stress or adversity, and shows some effects of those stress, depression for a while, but they recover after some time. They call it the recovery trajectory. These people follow the recovery trajectory. But 10% of people cannot sustain the stress. The stress leave a permanent effect on their psychological health. They suffer from depression long term or post-traumatic disorder. So science of resilience are interested into finding what are the common factors that we can see among the people who are resilient in nature, naturally resilient people. But the belief was that resilience was a fixed quality or capacity. But now things are changing, and people, the psychologists, are telling us that we can build resilience over time. We can accumulate resilience over time. And for that, they were interested in finding what are the common factors that we can see among the resilient people. And they found that there are 6 common factors in which can be observed in resilient people. Number 1, they get enough sleep. Number 2, they eat healthy. Number 3, they do daily workouts or exercises. Then they observe a routine. There is a structure in their life. They observe a routine, more or less routine in their life. Fifth, they have a purpose in life, even a small purpose like having a small project keep them engaged, which acts as a buffer to stress, even extreme stress. And number 6, they have a strong social connection. They have strong social support of friends. So when I read this 2 weeks ago in Scientific American, I said, wow, spirituality, in fact, committed spiritual life encourages all of these elements into our life. Committed spiritual life means taking care of our physical health, mental health, and spiritual health. So definitely there should be some connection between spirituality and resilience. And number of studies have shown that indeed spirituality contributes to a great degree to make us resilient. But at the very outset, we should be honest about that. Even without spirituality, one can be resilient. But here, we, all spiritual seekers, are interested in finding out how spirituality contributes to resilience, how spirituality makes us more resilient in the face of adversity. As I said, I find all of these factors are connected to spirituality. But today, I shall restrict my talk only to 2 factors that they have observed in resilient people. One is finding a purpose or keeping a purpose, keeping a meaning in life. Number 2, role of spiritual community in providing the comfort and support that makes us resilient. So one is how spirituality helps us to have meaning in life. And number 2, how spiritual friendship helps us in making us resilient. So I assume that most of you have read or heard about the groundbreaking book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. There he shows he himself, as a psychologist, was a uh, prisoner of Nazi concentration camp. And what you observed is that those people who had some meaning in their life, had some goal, even a tiny goal like writing a book, survive the extreme torture they were subjected to. So he wrote, those who have a why to live can survive anyhow. By that he meant those who have a why, that is, those who have a meaning, why we are living, what is the purpose of my life, they can go through any type of situations or circumstances, they can survive. So that is the role of meaning in making us resilient, making us optimist at the face of adversity. Interestingly, Duke University of North Carolina, one of the researchers there did a PhD. What she did, she interviewed 6 women from the Midwest USA. 5 of them were between the age of 80 and 89. One of them was 92. And she was interested in finding that how these elderly women, how they relate their capacity to survive at the face of stress to their spirituality. These women, at the very beginning of the interview, when she was looking for such candidates who were spiritual, that is, who call themselves spiritual, and at the same time have gone through a lot of challenges in their life, what they feel about their spirituality. That is, she was interested in finding whether they think that their spirituality has helped them anyway in making them resilient. So this lady, the researcher, interviewed these 6 ladies, total 30 interviews, 5 interviews with each of these candidates. And this interview lasted for long hours. And she was interested in finding that there any pattern, is there any their pattern in the reports of the interviews about direct connection, role of spirituality in making these women resilient. So these women suffered through or went through different adverse situations like terminal illnesses, loss of husband and only son, and also they were facing some old age related problems. So she chose candidates who had gone through or suffered challenges throughout their life. And what emerged from their interviews is that all of these women, 6 women, although they had their different definitions of spirituality, they meant different things when they referred to spirituality. All of them ascribe their resilience to their spirituality. Especially, they, what she found is that uh, they ascribe their resilience to 3 domains of in three domains of spirituality. Number one is making sense of the adversity. Number two, role of spirituality in providing them a spiritual core. And number three is role of spirituality in providing them a goal which is larger than oneself. So let us look into these three domains of spirituality as related to resilience and their connections with Vedanta. So first is making sense of the adversity. So when we are facing some challenges, and if it is extreme challenge like this, the first thing we need to do is to making sense of it. What is the sense? Why it is happening? So devotees, some of these women, they say that they believe that God has a plan for them. God has a plan for them, and that is why God has put them into these difficult circumstances so that they can learn and grow from these experiences. So that is uh, a crucial point in it's crucial factor in resilience, not only surviving but also growing. Since God has put me in this situation, there must be some purpose. I may not find it now, but if I look back, I have found, these women told, it is not my wordings, these women told that when they look back, they have found that every struggle, every adversity has made them stronger. They grew from these sufferings, grew out of these adverse situations. So they take it as God's plan. One story which I have told you earlier too, some of you may remember that I really saw two such devotees in my life. One of them uh, I would like to mention today, that a couple, a doctor and a housewife, they are full, young, grown young, only son who was an established, promising lawyer was accidentally shot, accidentally shot. And when we heard the news, and they were very close to our ashrama in India, we heard the news, we thought how to comfort her, how to console her in such a situation. And when we visited, we were surprised. The lady told us, God gave us the son and God took away. So let us now figure out what we can do, how we can grow from this situation. And as a result, what happened, their life turned even for better. The husband and wife, they started doing more spiritual practices, serious study of the Upanishads, scriptures together, and they say that we are blessed. We are blessed that we went through such a suffering. So God has a plan, and so that's why we are put into this situation. But let us figure out how we can grow from this situation. Here I would like to mention that uh, another research has found out that not only spirituality uh, is connected to resilience, but there is another factor, in spirituality. That is, where does one find one's locus of control? They call it internal locus of control or outer locus of control. Those who believe that nothing is in their hands, they may be spiritual or they may believe in God, they don't do well at the face of adverse situation. But those who believe that God's it is under God's plan that we are facing such situation, and God wants us to grow from this situation, and we have to try our best under the present circumstances. They report greater well-being and greater resilience. Another way of making sense of adverse situation is to look at the adverse situation as passing. These too will pass. So these women reported that when they look back in their life, they have gone through different adverse situations, and all of them have passed, and leaving them more enriched, leaving them more confident in dealing with adverse situations. So these two will pass. This is a classic Advaita formula of looking at the changing nature of the world. These two will pass. I hope, or I think you know the story, but let me tell you again that there was a king in India. He was a king of a small state, and he had a very wise minister. Wise in the sense, a minister who was wise in practical wisdom as well as in scriptural wisdom. So the king had a son. The, the first son was born to the king, and he was very happy, rejoicing, and asked the minister, "How are you feeling about that? That this is my first son, the next prince." So the minister said, "It's okay." So the king was unhappy with that. So later on, he called the minister and said, "Why did you say so? Why you did not seem to be so happy about?" The minister said, "O king, even this will pass." That is, even this celebration, this jubilant occasion, this joyous occasion, even these two will pass. So king was not happy and said, "Okay, you may go." So many years later, uh, there was a news that the neighboring state was about to attack this state. And the king was very anxious and was very stressed, anxious what to do. And he called his minister. "Look, this is the situation. We are going to be attacked very soon." The minister said, "Okay, fine. Let's do what we can do." Then the king said, "Why are you not stressed about this? Are you not anxious?" Then the minister said, "O king, even this will pass." So then the king understood the wisdom in the minister's outlook that even this will pass. So whatever adverse situation we may be facing, yes, may not pass in a month or two, but ultimately it will pass. So that helps us to give a perspective of the adverse situation or the suffering we are going through. One of our Swamis, Swami Rudrananda, uh, who went to Fiji from India to start the center there. So many expats of India who settled in Fiji requested Ramakrishna Mission in India to start a center at Fiji and to start a school, a good school where their children can go and study. Swami Rudrananda came, and after many years of struggle, because the situation was not very favorable, so he had to struggle a lot to find a piece of land, then collect funds. So with many years hard struggle, he built a ashrama and a school building. And one day, the entire campus was on fire. The building, school building, the ashrama building, the temple are all gutted in fire. So they believe it was an act of, a nasty act. Somebody purposefully did it who did not like the school to function there. Some people were against them. But anyway, so all the buildings were gutted and the Swami had no place to stay. So one of the devotees requested the Swami to stay with them. So it was gutted on night, and next day the devotee came and took the Swami to their house. And at night, the devotee was very much upset about the situation of the Swami, who did such a untiring work and with such effort, patience, and hard work, he built the ashrama. This, so at night, the devotee was unable to sleep. He was tossing in his bed, but he found that the Swami was sleeping peacefully at the next room. The devotee could not sleep whole night thinking about the plight of the Swami, but Swami was sleeping very peacefully. So next morning at the breakfast, Swami Rudrananda came after taking shower and doing his morning meditation. And the devotee was surprised to see that Swami was sitting peaceful as if nothing has happened. And after coming to the breakfast table, the Swami Rudrananda said to the devotee, "Look, we see we have a lot of work ahead. We have to start now a bigger ashrama now with a bigger building. Let's start." So that is called resilience. Even after going through all the hardships or challenges, one can keep optimism and make a sense, able to make a sense. The Swami was definitely having this attitude that it was Sri Ramakrishna's wish that it happens. For Sri Ramakrishna, we build this ashrama. Now it is his wish that it is guarded on fire by fire, and so probably it is his wish that we build a larger ashrama, a bigger school and college. Now that college and that school is the best school and best college in Fiji. You can search about that. So that was making sense of adversity, having faith in God's plan, and knowing that even these two will pass. Second is spirituality gives us a core, a spiritual core. Grounded in that core, we can face the adversity. It's like having a secure center of gravity within from which we can fight. That is what spirituality gives us. That is what spiritual practices provide us with. We gain a sense of a secure center of gravity within, grounded in which we can face the adversity and learn from the adversity and grow from the experiences. Bhagavad Gita says about, about this spiritual core, yasmin sthito na dukkheno guruna api vichallate. Having been centered in which one is not perturbed even at the face of most difficult situations. So we may not have that strong center of gravity, but all of us have some degree of center of gravity, some degree of sense of having a spiritual core within all of us. And daily spiritual practices reinforces in having faith and conviction in that inner spiritual core from which we can fight. Swami Bhuteshanandaji, one of our presidents and very wise monk and very witty monk, he used to say, what is the role of spirituality or daily spiritual practices? What daily spiritual practices do is daily spiritual practices make us Babo doll. Babo doll or roly-poly doll, wobbly man, we know, a kind of toy which has its center of mass at the bottom, and when they are forced to tilt, they rock for a while and then again become steady. Very quickly they return back to their center of gravity. So he used to say that a true devotee of God is like a wobbly man, a bobo doll, which even at the face of the adversity, they wobble a while, they toss a while, but again come back to their center of gravity. That is the immense benefit of daily spiritual practices. Even a little of spiritual practices daily gives us that spiritual strength or that spiritual core or gravity, spiritual center of gravity to which we may return as soon as the adversity, the problems are over. Then third one, so in two domains, spirituality contribute to our capacity to be resilient. One was making sense of the adversity. Number two was by providing us a spiritual core from which we can face the adverse situations. The third one is, and the most important one is, spirituality provides us a goal which is larger than ourselves, which is the most important thing to thrive at the face of adversity. So for devotees, the goal is to grow in devotion. So in the face of adversity, we should remind us that these are nothing. We have far more important goal to achieve, and that is growing in devotion. So keeping a higher goal, giving us a higher goal to strive for, in the face of which these adverse situations don't seem a big challenges, not so big a challenge. And Those who like to have non-dualistic approach, they have always the goal that how to be established in our higher nature, in our true nature, how to be established in Satchidananda, in our day-to-day life, how we can progress even an inch a day every day. So this is very important that spirituality provides us a goal, a meaning, a why to live for, so that we can face whatever or face any number of hows, any number of uh, adversities, any number of problems, challenges. So that was one, providing us, spirituality provides us with a meaning in life, a, a framework for making sense of the adversity, and providing a spiritual core from which we can face the adversity. And the second part is equally important, that is role of spiritual community, that is role of spiritual friends at the time of adversity. It is said that on one occasion, Ananda, the closest disciple of Buddha, came to Buddha and said that according to his view, half of spiritual life revolves around spiritual friendship. Half of spiritual life revolves around spiritual friendship. That is his understanding. Buddha said, no, 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 no. Don't say this. Don't ever say this. Spiritual friendship is not half of spiritual life. It is the entire spiritual life. So by that he meant that spiritual friends, the role of devotees, role of fellow travelers in the path is immense in growing us spiritually. And Sri Ramakrishna recognized this very well. He knew that after his passing away, all those disciples would wander about, live in their own way, but he did not want that way. That is why he wanted to have a community, spiritual community. And in his during his lifetime too, we see he always encouraged his devotees, disciples, to talk to each other, visit each other, help each other in their spiritual pursuit, in their spiritual goal. That is spiritual friendship. Spiritual friendship is not like any other friendship. Any other friendship is due to uh, any other friendship. In any other friendship, the friendship meets or helps us to meet our deep rooted needs, some needs. Okay, need for a friend, need for approval, need for sense of belonging. But spiritual friendship is unlike any of them. In spiritual friendship, there is no need to fulfill. It is only mutual support, mutual, the goal is only the spiritual growth of the other. And by that way, I am also growing. It is not any other mundane needs or any other psychological needs. And what is spiritual friendship? People who are devoted to or dedicated to one common spiritual ideal, that is spiritual friendship. And we see that Swami Vivekananda wanted to remain in highest spiritual bliss. And Sri Ramakrishna says, no, you have a bigger role to fulfill. You have to be a banyan tree under which so many people will come and get comfort, spiritual comfort, spiritual inspiration. And that is how we got such a beautiful order, Ramakrishna order, where spiritual friendship is the key element. Love and spiritual friendship are the most important principle of Sri Ramakrishna order. And that is how we got Vedanta societies. If there had not been, if Swami Vivekananda remained in high spiritual bliss, then there would not be a Ramakrishna order, there would not have been Vedanta societies, and here we would not have devotees gathered under a common spiritual goal. So that is the role of spiritual friendship. During the time of crisis, the devotees inquire with each other how they are doing. Even a phone call from a devotee, a spiritual friend, is so much encouraging. That helps us to know that we are not alone in this suffering, we are together. And especially the devotees remind us that we have greater goal to achieve in our life. Remind each other that not to lose faith, hope in the comforting, in the comfort or in the assurance of the divine. That is what devotees do to each other when they inquire during the time of crisis like now, how they are doing. And can I come to your help in any way? Even such a simple word, such a simple sentence like "How can I come to of your help?" is of so much importance. It sustains us at the time of crisis. Not only a crisis like this, but always. So yes, social connection is important, social support is important, but nothing is so invaluable like spiritual friendship, the support of spiritual friends. And how to be good spiritual friends. With this, I shall end. How to be good spiritual friends. How we can show up for each other during crises like this. I find that we can adopt Buddha's Four Noble Truths while dealing with or while comforting other spiritual friends. The Four Noble Truths are: number one, there is suffering. Number two, there is cause of suffering. Number three, there is end of suffering. Suffering can be, the suffering will end. There is possibility. It's possible that the suffering will end. And number four, there are steps, there are ways, means to end the suffering. How we can do that? Remembering these four truths when we talk to our spiritual friends. First of all, yeah, at the very beginning, we have to hear with patience is the suffering our spiritual friend is going through. We have to be totally receptive to the suffering that the spiritual friend is going through. Instead of saying that everything will be all right, let us be totally present and receptive to the suffering the friend is going through. Number two, there is cause of suffering. There is suffering, yes, accept it totally. Number two, then there is cause of suffering. That is, which part of the suffering is created by me? There are suffering and some part of the suffering are created by us. That becomes evident to us when we are hearing to their problems, listening to their problems, but our friend may not really get it. Which part of the suffering is really being created by us? So there is cause of suffering, and we have to be very patient about that. We we have to let our friend identify for themselves, is there any part of the suffering that is being created by us, or our wrong way of thinking, or our blowing up things, or our ruminating over things? These things we can gently point or ask to our friends that, is there any cause of suffering which is created by us? Third, there is end to suffering. That is, we did not say that things, we cannot say things will get better, but we can definitely say to our friends that things will change. Things will change. And that tiny assurance or tiny recognition of the fact that things will change may make a big impact the way we look at the suffering. And fourth, there are ways to end the suffering. And here comes the most delicate part of it. Instead of suggesting our friend what to do to end the suffering, let us ask our friends what they think the solution to the suffering may be. Or in the past, when they have gone through challenges, what have worked for them? Instead of suggesting, look, this is your problem, this will be the solution, let us ask our friend what they think the solution could be. And when they are able to say that what really helped them in the past, or what they think may help them in the present circumstances, we may think, in which way I can come to any help in that direction. Sometimes that could be very simple. A friend may be needing just one call from us a week. That is probably what they think we can do for them to end their suffering or contribute to their effort to end their suffering. We can do that. So these are the four adaptation of uh, Buddha's Four Noble Truths in dealing with spiritual friends, or comforting spiritual friends, or supporting spiritual friends in any crisis. And we should remember that this process may not be linear, so linear as I spoke it. Sometimes all of these elements cannot be present in all the conversation, but the most important part is to be present, to be present with our spiritual friends at the beginning, during, and end of the suffering. And most importantly, we should not think ourselves as caregivers. Rather, we are care supporter. We are giving care support. We are not fixing their problem. If we think we are going to fix the problems of our spiritual friends, that really may not help. Rather, let our friends, spiritual friends, feel that we are with them all the time, to hear and to be with them through the suffering and even at the end of the suffering. That may really help at the time of situations, at the time of suffering, like as we are going through now. So, what we learned today is that many people are naturally resilient when facing adversity. They not only cope not only recover from the suffering, they grow from the suffering. And research has found out that most of the people, about 65% of people, are resilient in nature. But resilience is also a skill which can be learned, and they found there are 6 habits or traits of resilient people. They eat healthy, they have enough sleep, they do exercise daily, they observe a more or less routine, they have a structure in their life, they have a meaning in their life, they have a goal in their life, and they have a social support. And we found that spirituality has a framework to help us in all these respects, especially two most important aspects of finding meaning in our life, getting a sense of the situation, getting a perspective of the situation, and being optimistic about that, giving us a spiritual core from which we can face the adversity, providing us a goal which is higher than ourselves. And also there is immense role of spiritual friendships to support us, which is more than any kind of support, which is very nourishing support, and which definitely help us in being more resilient. Thank you. And if you have any question, I may open the discussion. I may today, I can go for a conversation even. I'm unmuting all of you. Okay, so you may ask question. Already have got. Okay, Swamiji, what does non-dualistic mean? Does it mean the idea that everything is one? Yes, that is Advaita Vedanta. That everything is one. The duality that we see or we find uh, in us and the world and God ultimately does not exist. In ultimate analysis, we are all one, that is non-dualistic. Can we say the Guru is the most important spiritual friend? Yes, sure, Guru is the most spiritual friend. Only problem is Guru is not always accessible. Guru is not always accessible. And this is very important, interesting thing, that we have two types of spiritual friends. Maybe sometime I will take up the topic again, spiritual friendship. One is horizontal friendship, another is vertical friendship. Horizontal friendship is when we are almost at the same level of growth and we are supporting each other, horizontal friendship. And vertical friendship is when we associate ourselves with someone who we believe are far advanced than us, but they are also friends. They are also friend, and Guru is such a spiritual friend, and it's a vertical friendship. Maharaj, can prayer play a role in such situation? Sure, sure. Prayer, of course, play a role in our situations by providing us optimism, providing us a sense of uh, belonging to God, sense of having a deep connection with God. Prayer is definitely a play a big role in being resilient. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you to also. And any other questions, suggestions, comments? Okay, is Advaita considered theism or atheism? Advaita is, of course, theism, because Advaita starts with theism, that is having a belief, a God, and at ultimate analysis, Advaita would say that essentially we and God are same, but all Advaita practices start with God. So Advaita is theism. All right. So thank you very much, all of you. Vedanta Society should promote horizontal friendship. Yes, that is where we are here. We are to promote horizontal friendship, and that is what we are doing. We are, say now, today, here 18 people, we are helping each other, right? It is we are learning from each other, growing from each other. Okay, thank you to all of you for joining. Now let us chant together the closing chant. I thank you, Swami. Yes, you are welcome. Thank you for joining. So let us chant together. Om Madhuvataritayate Madhuksharanti Sindhavaha Madhiirna Santoshadhihi Madhunaktam Uta Sashi Madhumat Parthivagam Rajaha Madhudvau Astuna Pita Madhumano Vanaspatir Madhumagam Astu Suryaha Madhiir Gabo Bhavantunaha Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sweet blow the winds and the oceans give forth blessedness. May the herbs and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us be the nights and dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessing. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us be the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us be the shining sun. Sweet unto us be all living creation. Om, sweetness